We got Aroldis Chapman here pitching. Let's break this down. You're going to see a lot of similarities that we talked about with Shohei Ohtani's motion, of how they really leverage their body, but let's get right into it. And one of the things with Chapman you're going to see is how much he really uses the leverage in his backside and in staying closed as he drives down the mound, to where he's really able to get extreme rotation on the way through in his throwing motion. So I'm going to pause right there. That's the first thing, and see if you can point out what you see. I'll give you a couple seconds. I'm going to show you what the biggest thing is right now. But when he lifts his leg, he automatically is leading with that front glute. See that there? And if I draw a wall, that's the first thing that comes down the mound this way. Right? And so it's that front hip and glute. And so what he lets that lead the way, and then by doing that, he creates an angle in his spine where his spine actually stays slightly back this way. And a lot of us amateur pitchers that don't generate power, what we do instead of that is, we're in our pitching setup. I'll rewind this just a little bit. We're in our setup here, where we're starting more straight. All we do is we lift our knee, and we haven't created any tilt in the spine, and we haven't led with the hip. We just lift the knee up and down, and we haven't done much with our body at all. But notice how he lifts and creates the angle in his spine. This way, and the hip leads the way. And a lot of these hard throwers, you're going to see their knee does go past parallel to generate more power and momentum. Now, when they do that, they still stay balanced, and they still let their body go forward as the knee gets into that position. So the knee is going this way, okay? But the glute is going this way. And so we create some torque, and that essentially creates power. Stored up power to use for later on. Now, look at his back leg. See the angle in his back leg? He's bending his knee. He's sitting into that glute a lot more than most of us do. And that creates, again, more driving force with the backside. And so he'll even increase that angle. Watch this as we go forward. Right here, again, he's increased the angle, which means he's increased the power. Now he's got that angle, and now look at how much that front glute and hip lead the way. And now look at the angle in his spine is even more this way. Guys, all of these things are adding up to power. Power is a recipe of the whole body. Okay, adding one thing after the next. And a big reason we can't throw hard yet is because we're relying on just the throwing arm. When you rely on the back leg, on using the front glute to lead the way, on the spine angle, okay? And then you store up all this energy and drive, and then you combine it with the rotation you have once you land with your front foot. You rotate through your core, through your hips, through your shoulders. You've now created that snapping effect of the hand whipping out in front when you finally release the ball. And so again, just to recap, it's first, in a nutshell, to create power, we're trying to generate it first in our backside. And we take it in our backside, we drive down the mound with force. Then we land and we generate tons of rotational power. Okay, and then we let the arm whip through. So in that order, those three things, that's where you get the final hand speed at the end, reaching its maximum peak. Let's keep going forward. And so he separates. Notice how he really stays closed with his front shoulders. And again, same thing we talked about with Ohtani. They use the front elbow as the aiming point to their targets. So his eyes are looking right over his front elbow to home plate. Notice how the glove stays up. Okay. We also need to use our front arm to rotate faster. The front arm is one of the most underrated pieces of throwing. This is for a pitcher. This is for any thrower if you want to throw with good velocity. The front arm needs to stay up to help the body and the shoulders stay closed. Okay, and so when the shoulders are closed, we're storing up power as well. It helps us store up power in the back leg longer. And notice with him, he is more closed than most. You know, from him, his shoulder to shoulder, see how much he's closed here. And so if you're the batter, you're basically seeing, you're looking right at his numbers. Okay. Now, he can do this and throw strikes, right? If you're doing this and you can't throw strikes yet, you first need to be accurate. And so if you're over closing and you're not accurate, probably over closing is not a good idea. Although you'll get good velocity, you won't have control. But he's an elite athlete, and for him, you know, he's done this years and years and years. And so he can still throw strikes by adding a little bit of secrets within his power. It adds into his recipe. Okay, the other feeling he has, he's hiding the back hip and the back shoulder. That's the feeling as he drives down the mound. Okay, and so front arm is up. Let's keep going forward. Now he's landed. Now the front arm starts pulling in. Now he gets the chest over the front hip. And we talked about the seesaw effect if you watch the Ohtani breakdown with him pitching. Okay, we talked about that spine angle. Okay, Chapman gets even twice as much spine angle. Look at the angle in his spine over his front leg. Crucial. Okay, again, that's really essential for getting good power. You've got to get that spine going forward. You got to generate all that momentum. And so, like, if you really think about it, think about what his upper body is doing and his spine in particular that we're talking about. When he started back, let me back it up a little more to make this make more sense. We talked about leading with the glute and the hip, and now his spine's going this way, right? So let me draw that angle. He gets into this position at one point, but then see this blue line we drew over here? Then he eventually gets into that position as he throws. See how much his body moves there? Again, that just adds force. That adds momentum into his throw. He's not throwing with his spine just straight up and down the whole time. He's getting this angle, okay, in the opposite direction, going back and forth then this way. Guys, this is crucial because a lot of us as younger players, we don't use our spine angle at all. We don't use any of that leverage to generate power. We are just straight up and down like this to start. And we even finish straight up and down. And when we finish straight up and down with our spine, it's only the throwing arm that then does all the work. Okay? So we're, again, leveraging the entire body. Okay, I want to finish with this last point, though. Watch how he finishes. Boom. Head forward. Ridiculous angle there on the spine. Strong front side, though. Okay, again, the front side is strong. The back leg finishes up. See that positioning right there? And then you see all the momentum continue to go forward. Okay, he doesn't stay back here. He travels down the mound.